Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Well, welcome back, and I do apologise. I'm a little bit late with the VMware news this week. I was celebrating my birthday this weekend, so I chilled out and I took the weekend off. Um, so I suppose really the biggest thing last week, really, if you're not really sort of kind of following, that it was the anniversary, 1 year on after Broadcom took control of VMware. It's always going to be a date that's in my calendar because it's the date before my birthday. So last year on my birthday, in November the 23rd, 2023, I actually woke up with the news that the Broadcom takeover of VMware had been completed. Has it been a successful year? It's very interesting, I think. When you look at the media, when you look socially, I think we're all sort of kind of told that it's been an absolutely fantastic takeover. However, I think that there have been some casualties along the way. It's also very interesting that Broadcom have brought back VMware vSphere Enterprise Plus and VMware vSphere Standard, which I mentioned in another news article. So, did Broadcom get it wrong? Put your comments in the description. So we move forward. So I think that's the biggest event that sort of kind of took place last week, which I'm surprised I didn't really see any flags or streamers or fireworks going off. Anyway, in news last week, and I'll put all these links in the description as well, so you can pick them and you can read them at your leisure. But one of course, the other things last week that Broadcom and AT&T reached a settlement in the VMware legal dispute, which was basically over support. And reading between the lines, I don't think AT&T really wanted to go to VCF, or they were rather pissed off about support. But anyway, surprise, surprise, they've reached a settlement in principle to their legal dispute over VMware licensing and support services. And they'll probably settle out of court and shake hands on it, because AT&T, well, they got a shitload of money, haven't they? And I'm sure Broadcom are not going to miss $4 or $5 in paying them. So anyway, last week, that AT&T case has been effectively settled. So moving on, HP announces VM Essentials. The interesting name, but it isn't but the VMware competitor that isn't. So it's interesting to see, and I think that I think that this was always something that we were greeting with open hands and thumbs up. That the takeover of VMware by Broadcom was going to start introducing other cloud vendors, on-premise, cloud-based, and obviously HPE. There have been a few more as well that I've sort of kind of seen, trying to take chunks of that money away from Broadcom. Not that Broadcom really seemed too bothered about the SMBs, to be honest with you. I think certainly if you're an SMB out there, I think you'll realise by now that the product has become probably far too expensive for you. It was always an expensive product. I've always maintained this. I've been challenged time and time again, and I've turned around to people and said, the whole VMware vSphere thing is not a cheap product, and that's why so many organisations have been using Hyper-V. But now with these new changes with licensing, SMBs have been completely priced out of it. So they are looking at other mechanisms. They're looking at other hypervisors, Microsoft Hyper-V and ProMox and XCP, VMware Workstation being one of them, which is now free. And now we've got another entry. HP announces VM Essentials, which is interesting because it will work with the HPE ProLiant range. Surprise, surprise. But it will also work with third parties as well, providing that they're on the Harbor compatibility list. So that may be an option as well for some. And then moving on, last week we had Microsoft Ignite, and I wouldn't normally really include this because it's not really anything to do with VMware, but Microsoft have now sort of kind of, starting to rename Azure Cloud, which was previously known as Azure Stack and Azure Stack HCI, and they're now going to call it Azure Local. And obviously, with the buzzword local there, effectively it means on-premise or in the cloud. And certainly in the education sector, pricing for cloud-based Azure is very, very aggressive. What I mean is it's very, very cheap. So I can certainly probably see some organizations, certainly in education, may move to Microsoft Azure Stack, or as it's now called, Azure Local. And then finally, a plug for me. Last week, I published my 50th video, not of all time, but my 50th video in 2024, which I sort of kind of did turn around and say was going to be my last one. I think I told a few pork pies there, because I'm currently on number 51 that I've just got to finish a few edits and then basically wang that out to Tuba. And I'll probably do a 52 as well, because, as I say, I'm excited that these things are arriving. They may be too small for you to see, but effectively they are Raspberry Pi compute modules, and these things are like rocking horse shit over COVID, and certainly for the last 2 or 3 years, you've not been able to get compute modules for love and money. Now you can buy them in a handful. So I've got handfuls of these coming, because I'm still hang on. If those are going to fall all off, and this is not plugged in at the moment, here we go. I've been experimenting with this boy. This is a Turing Pi 2. The Turing Pi v2.5 is out now, so you can get it. And this is a mini ITX motherboard. I'll just flip that over as well so you can actually basically see on the back. It does also have some NVMe, 4 NVMe ports as well. Sadly, they can't be used with the CM4 due to limitations of the CM4, I believe, even in the Turing Pi version 2.5. But anyway, so the good thing is that you can actually basically get 4 CM4s, or you can get 4 Turing RK1s. They have their own ARM processor, or you can use this for NVIDIA Nanos as well, all on the same board. It uses the native Ethernet driver for ESXi 4 or ESXi 7. That's the ARM version, of course, I'm talking about, not talking about the Intel version here. That has its own little magic switch, a Realtek component on board, so that all these are actually basically routed through 2 network ports. So I'm going to be doing lots of experimentation with the CM4. I'm a great fan of the ARM product from VMware in 7.0, and it was recently released at the end of October 31st, in ESXi 8. So I'm experimenting with that at the moment. You may ask, well, what are you going to do with it? Well, basically what I am going to do is I'm going to migrate all my Intel Linux. That's just a flashback to the old days. I'm going to migrate all my current Linux-based Intel workloads off my Intel boxes onto ESXi ARM. And I've got quite a few of them. There's no P to V or V to V here in doing this. It basically means that I'm going to have to build new templates on probably Ubuntu or Diet Pi or something like that, but based on ARM. And then we're actually going to migrate the services, the web services and the Docker services and all the other little services that we use around here for things like Plex, things like Miniam server, which actually basically drives some of the DACs here and stuff like that as well. And this is really all because compute module basically takes far less power. I think that whole board with 4 Pis in compute module 4s takes about 45 watts. So there isn't really any requirement to have these big servers running here, although they're not that big, but they're a couple of 100 watts. And a couple of 100 watts, 24/7, 365 days, that does basically eat the electricity when you're paying 30 pence a kilowatt hour. Such is life in the UK. So it's time really to migrate all those services off Intel. And with the release of Windows 11 ARM, which is now actually available as an ISO download, and also Windows Server 2025 ARM as well, it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not that I can actually basically run my domain controllers here, my DHCP servers here, and my DNS servers here, all on ARM as well, to reduce my costs. So, 50th video already done, which was about ESXi ARM. 51, which is also about ESXi ARM and the Turing Pi. We've got a few more CM4s coming. Hopefully there'll be another product here, maybe before Christmas, possibly. I don't know. And then finally, so that's that video there. And I was suffering synchronous exception problems in that video a lot. We've resolved that sort of now because we basically managed to boot our Pis from TFTP. So another video will be coming on that as well. That probably 52, I think, or 53. And then finally, in the month of November, really, we've not really seen any updates from Broadcom. Maybe it's getting to that Christmas Day or that part of the year in Christmas, and they're not going to release any. So just to go over the last official releases for ESXi was 8.03p04. Which was the update 3B, which is what ESXi ARM is also based on. That was released on the 17th of October 2024, and that's build number 242.80767. And then finally, vCenter Server 8.0 update 3D, which is the 400, which was released on the 21st of October 2024, which is also build 243.22831. If you're on old money, that's VMware vCenter Server 7.0 Update 3T, and that's 2200, released on the 21st of October 2024, and that's build 243.22018. And just for consistency, if we actually go back to the old money version, ESXi 7.03p09, which is Update 3Q, released on the 21st of the 5th, 2024. Build 237.94027. I'll put all those links in the description. Anything you want to know, ask questions, please put them in the comments. And you may have noticed that there's a little bit less hair on my head. Finally, after months, the length of the beard was really getting on my tits, to be honest with you. Touching the microphone here. And plus the fact it was my birthday at the weekend, and they probably wouldn't have actually let me into the restaurant in the way I looked, to be honest with you. So it was a beard chop and a hair chop. So I might look a little bit more human. Anyway, so with that, I've been going on for far too long, about 30 minutes. I did originally sort of going to try that. I wanted to keep this down to 5 minutes, and hopefully, you will find that the microphone level is a bit better. Because after people still complaining that the audio was too low, and then a good friend of mine, Edward, I turned around and said, Edward, can you just do me a favour and just have a little listen to that video and let me know whether or not you think it's too low? And he turned around and said, yes, it is. I thought, bloody hell. So I went off and had a little look through all the values, and I actually basically found that the microphone, for some strange reason, had dropped by about 9 dB. So hopefully you can now hear me. I think the problem I have here is I have the volume turned all the way up because I'm deaf, and I don't really specifically notice the volume level. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. As I said, I will put the two playlists for vSphere 7 and vSphere 8 in the description, and maybe we'll start another one on Raspberry Pi ARM. Who knows? Anyway, thanks so much, and goodbye. Bye bye.